Greetings, viewer. I'm genuinely glad you're here. If you happen to tap that subscribe icon, it'd mean the world to me. Now, let's dive straight in. Jason Whitmore's eyes hadn't moved in nearly 7 minutes. The morning sun crept across the table, brushing the rim of his coffee mug, which trembled slightly in his grasp. Across from him, Evelyn took small bites of her toast, her phone lying screen down like a sealed folder marked Top Secret. "You really need to act your age," she said casually, her mouth half full, blotting strawberry jam from her lips as though erasing something she'd rather not have said. Jason didn't respond. He remained completely still. This wasn't the first time he'd heard that line. It had come in various forms before, but this version felt heavier, final, a full stop rather than a comma. "I'm heading out for brunch with Dean," she said, already rising and slinging her faux leather bag over her shoulder. "It's just food. Don't go making it a soap opera." She leaned down to kiss his forehead, not affectionately, but the way one might console a stranger in a hospital bed. Jason said nothing, just listened as her heels clicked toward the front door. She lingered at the end of the driveway, as if deciding whether or not to turn back. She didn't. Her car drifted off and vanished down Maplebrook Lane. Jason stood, emptied the rest of his coffee into the sink, wiped the spotless counter out of sheer habit, then sat down again and opened his laptop. Into the search bar he typed, "Tennessee Real Estate Trust, spouse notification optional." Then, end joint ownership without alerting co-owner. Jason Whitmore, 63 years old, retired from civil engineering, steady as ever, his beard more salt than pepper, had begun the quiet dismantling of his shared life. Not driven by bitterness, but by resolution. Not rage. It would have made too much noise. What lived inside him now was deliberate, measured. Evelyn had checked out long ago, the sudden spa visits, the mysterious wellness getaways, the tight smile that never quite made it to her eyes, the gleam in her face when he interrupted her texting. She once told him she wanted more from life. Perhaps she did, but this wasn't the way. He remembered laying the foundation of their first home with his own 2 hands, smoothing the cabinets until they shone like glass. He remembered holding her every night for weeks after their second miscarriage. He remembered Gus, their German shepherd, now buried beneath the old oak tree in their yard. Their life had been far from perfect, but it had once been real until Dean arrived. Jason didn't press her the first time Dean came up. Then came the muffled laughter past midnight, the slips of lacy underwear hidden among paper towels, the strange credit card bill she kept to herself. One morning, her phone was left unlocked. One message read, "Still on for next weekend? I'm dying to taste you again." Jason didn't flinch, just took a screenshot. He never confronted her. Maybe he never would. He didn't want an apology. He wanted her to believe he was still in the dark. That same evening, while Evelyn was away, Jason made his first financial move. A quiet $6,000 shift from their joint savings to a new account, housed under a discreet legal trust. The name? Morningside Holdings, LLC. It sounded like a retirement firm, harmless enough to be overlooked. The next day, he closed their decades-old P.O. box and opened another under the LLC's name. In the process, he found something forgotten, yet telling. A worn receipt from 5 years ago. Evelyn's signature scrawled beside a note. "Post-nuptial amendment, private filing." He hadn't remembered it until then, but now it felt like the first card pulled from a fragile house. 3 days later, Evelyn floated back into the house, tipsy and humming some auto-tuned remix from her yoga retreat. Jason could now picture Dean clearly. He'd once glimpsed the man in a group photo Evelyn carelessly airdropped to their shared photo folder. Dean was younger, late 30s maybe, beard precisely trimmed, grinning too hard, sunglasses that screamed arrogance. Evelyn claimed he was a colleague. Probably gay, she'd added with a shrug. Jason no longer believed it. Dean drove a Tesla with expired plates and rented a pricey loft overlooking the river. Yoga wasn't where Evelyn had been. From the couch, Jason observed her giggle at a text and quickly hide the phone. Her laughter no longer held restraint. "Spiritual retreat next weekend," she said brightly, grabbing coconut water and 2 protein bars. "Cold therapy again?" Jason asked, his voice devoid of emotion. She chuckled. "Don't tell me you've been reading my wellness blogs." "I haven't," he replied. "I've been brushing up on trust law." She laughed, assumed it was a joke. But Jason never joked about structure. 3 days after that, while Evelyn sang in the upstairs shower, Jason sat quietly downstairs, a glass of lemon water in hand. Her voice echoed awkwardly from the bathroom tile, warbling some affirmation track recommended by a goddess activation coach. He didn't care what she was trying to awaken. His focus was on a sealed envelope sitting on the kitchen counter, already notarized, photocopied. Inside was the title to a riverfront condo she knew nothing about, purchased in full under Morningside Holdings, with funds Jason had been discreetly setting aside for years. She used to call it his doomsday fund. In hindsight, it was preparation dressed as paranoia. Later that morning, Jason called Marcy Fields, his long-trusted financial advisor. Marcy operated strictly off the record. No emails, no digital footprints. "I need to move the fallback assets," he said. "To where exactly?" she asked. "2 destinations, one under the trust, one under just my name, and scrub Evelyn entirely." A silence followed. "Is this a reaction or a plan?" she asked. Jason's tone was like bedrock. "It's structure, not stress." By the week's end, $188,000 had slipped out from under Evelyn's radar. She didn't notice. She was too busy uploading filtered sunset photos with captions like "number soul healing." Meanwhile, Jason continued engineering his quiet retreat. He had a new security system installed, biometric access, hers excluded. He refinanced the old lake cabin she used to insult, the one where they'd once spread Gus's ashes. The deed now belonged to a shell company bearing Evelyn's maiden name, a faint trail, if any. Each night, while Evelyn curled up with her back to him and her phone charging by her feet, Jason returned to his study. He dove into research, wills, asset protection, digital forensics, the intricacies of prenup clauses. He became a student of silence. He downloaded every bank statement they'd ever shared, flagged every unusual purchase. Every suspicious Uber trip she forgot was charged to their joint card. On July 3rd, he took a detour past the yoga studio she swore she went to religiously, 3 times a week. She was supposed to be there, centered, realigned. She wasn't. Jason didn't follow her to any yoga studio. Instead, he watched her pull into a row of neatly spaced townhouses. Dean answered the door, shirtless, coffee cup in hand. She didn't bother knocking, just tapped in a code and slipped inside. Jason remained still, no reaction, no muttering. He simply raised his phone and took a picture, time-stamped. Then another, her car in the driveway. One more. Her walking in empty-handed, no yoga mat, no gear, no meditation, no intention setting. Just deceit. He got himself a coffee, topped off the gas tank, and was home before noon. That evening, Evelyn breezed through the front door humming, dressed in leggings that matched the gym bag she hadn't bothered to bring inside. She pecked him on the cheek like it was routine. "I feel like myself again, babe." Finally. Jason nodded, glad to hear it. "Dean's doing a sound bath next weekend. Want to come?" He gave a dry chuckle. "I'm more the quiet type." She laughed, not catching the undertone. A few days later, their daughter Leah stopped by with groceries and a subtle tension in her step. She sensed something wasn't right. Evelyn's glow of self-renewal, Jason's unsettling calm. She couldn't put her finger on it, but something wasn't breaking. It was being measured. While Evelyn attended her workshop, Leah stumbled upon a sealed envelope in Jason's desk. Cream-colored paper, neat handwriting, open after October 15th, For Leah Whitmore. She didn't open it, but she didn't forget. That night, Jason was slicing roasted chicken as Leah watched him closely. "You're not falling apart," she said. "I'm not trying to," he replied. "I'm preparing." And then she understood. Her father wasn't unraveling. He was sharpening. Meanwhile, Evelyn drifted through her days cloaked in aromatherapy and denial. She wined and dined Dean at all the same restaurants Jason used to book for anniversaries. Told her friends Jason had become dull, and she was finally reclaiming her spark. Jason reclaimed things too. The electric bill? No longer in her name. The garage code? Changed. The Lexus, now titled under Morningside Holdings, LLC. When she came back, the house had been reset, pristine, impersonal. No photos, no notes, no warmth, just vacancy. She texted, "Why won't the garage open?" Jason replied, "System maintenance, update in progress." No greeting, no punctuation. Just the cold echo of the messages she used to send from Dean's couch. Week by week, another strand snapped. Pieces of their marriage faded one by one. Then one morning, a thick envelope arrived at her apartment. No sender listed. Inside, a wedding invitation. Not hers. Not for her. Jason D. Whitmore and Abigail C. Reese invite you to celebrate their marriage. November 4th, Solace Hill Vineyard, Asheville, North Carolina. And then, handwritten at the bottom, Evelyn. Please RSVP by October 15th. You've always been punctual. She stared at the silver-embossed text, her coffee cooling beside her. Abigail C. Reese, the quiet widow from down the street. The woman Evelyn had once dismissed as forgettable. Now she was the bride. Evelyn wasn't even properly invited. She flipped the card over, Jason's handwriting again. You've always been punctual. The mug slipped from her hand and shattered in the sink. She didn't react. A tightness grew in her chest. October 15th. That date rang in her mind. Then it clicked. The envelope Leah had mentioned. The one with her name on it. Marked for that exact day. This wasn't chance. That night, Evelyn drove to Dean's, unusually quiet. She didn't bring up the invitation. Dean talked about his new gym routine and a hiking app. She stirred a cocktail she didn't want and muttered, "Jason's been acting off." Dean didn't even look up. Midlife crisis. He's 63. Late life crisis, then. She laughed shallowly, but it didn't land. Something was wrong. Jason hadn't shouted, he hadn't accused, and that was what scared her. She tried accessing their shared bank accounts. Locked out. Admin authorization required. Her hands went clammy. She checked her vehicle's lease. Transferred. Now under Morningside Holdings. She whispered aloud, "What the hell is Morningside?" A few days later, she returned to the house for some of her things. The garage wouldn't respond. The keypad blinked red. The front door? Unlocked. Too unlocked. Inside, the home was unrecognizable, immaculate and impersonal. The fridge was restocked with organic food. The linens were fresh. None of her candles or creams remained. No trace of her spa kits. Even the thermostat no longer linked to her phone. On the kitchen counter, she found a utility bill addressed only to Jason D. Whitmore. No cosigner. Upstairs, the closet was all his. Her luxury shoes, gone. Bathrobe, missing. Even the hook where it used to hang had vanished, like she'd never been there at all. In the nightstand drawer, she found a folder, Vehicle Lease Portfolio. Her hands trembled as she flipped through it. LLCs, notarized documents, Jason's signature everywhere. She left without a word. Back at Dean's, she tried to explain. "I think Jason's erasing me." Dean, distracted, shrugged. "Didn't you say he was harmless?" She said nothing. For the first time, she wasn't sure. She felt it then. That eerie finality of a door quietly shutting behind you. A door you didn't even know had locked. One that once opened to comfort, now sealed. The next morning, she texted Leah. "I think your dad's losing it." It took hours, but Leah replied, "Number he's just done pretending." Evelyn stared at the message, then opened a bottle of wine and drank alone on her balcony, wordless. On October 15th, another courier came. this time with a legal envelope. Inside, an official amendment to the post-nuptial agreement, notarized, witnessed, dated months earlier, signed by Jason, witnessed by Abigail C. Reese. Clause after clause stripped away everything Evelyn had assumed was hers. Financial rights, shared property, spousal claims, all revoked. Emotional abandonment. Voluntary forfeiture. She had walked away first. Jason had made sure that meant she'd forfeited everything. She picked up her phone, then set it down. There was no one left to call who hadn't already tuned her out. November 4th arrived in golden light. Solace Hill Vineyard glowed under a soft sun. Rolling hills, smooth jazz, the air laced with lavender and oak. Jason stood in a navy suit, composed and dignified, surrounded by friends and laughter. Glasses of rosé sparkled in the light. Abigail stood quietly beside him, draped in an elegant cream dress that moved like a whisper, graceful, composed, radiating a soft strength. Outside the wrought iron gates, Evelyn hovered, gripping a black purse that clashed awkwardly with her outfit. She hadn't been invited. Still, she came, driven by the need to see, to be certain. Leah spotted her first. Her deep blue dress shimmered faintly under the lights, hair pinned just right, her face composed but distant. "Mom," she said firmly from the threshold, "you're not supposed to be here." "I just want a quick word with your father," Evelyn replied. "I manage the guest list," Leah responded coolly, "and you're not on it." The words stung like a slap. "I raised you to be better than this." "No," Leah said, voice even but frayed at the edges. "That was Dad." Laughter rose from inside the garden. A toast rang out. Jason's voice floated on the breeze, confident, calm. Evelyn leaned forward, trying to peek past the greenery, but Leah stepped in again, blocking her sight. "This isn't the time or place, Mom." "I'm not here to cause trouble," Evelyn insisted. "I need closure." "He already gave it," Leah said. "You just chose not to hear it." Then, through a slim gap in the hedges, Evelyn saw him, Jason, smiling, his hand resting gently over Abigail's like it had always belonged there. He looked whole, at peace, unreachable. Later, Evelyn sat in her car, parked at the edge of the vineyard's gravel drive. In the passenger seat, Bean slouched in his hoodie, aimlessly scrolling through his phone, detached in the way only teenagers can be. "You all right?" he asked, barely looking up. She didn't answer. Her eyes stayed fixed on the paper in her lap, a printed copy of the post-nuptial agreement Dean had found in their mailbox. Her name wasn't there. Not on the deeds, the bank accounts, or the assets. She'd been erased, quietly, while she was busy laughing at a man she thought would never follow through. Dean glanced over, chewing a mint. "So what's next?" Evelyn folded the paper with slow care and said nothing. For the first time, she understood. There were no moves left, no argument to make. Jason hadn't fought, hadn't run after her. He hadn't needed to. He had simply started over, brick by brick, on the far side of the gate. By the time Jason took the mic at the vineyard reception, the sky glowed with the burnished hues of sunset. The crowd quieted, not out of obligation, but expectation. No clinking glasses, no murmurs, just the hush of the breeze stirring the table linens and the weight of something true about to be spoken. He didn't cough or fumble for notes, just stood there scanning the crowd briefly before meeting Abigail's eyes. She, calm in ivory, hands folded like a whispered prayer. He lifted his glass. "To those who told me it was time to grow up, thank you." Soft laughter fluttered through the crowd. Leah, seated near the front, allowed a small, knowing smile. "Because I did," he continued. "And I didn't just outgrow old clothes and secondhand furniture. I outgrew silence. I outgrew giving myself to people who thought reliability meant weakness. I stopped confusing kindness with surrender." He paused, not to dramatize, but to let it land. "They say when something breaks, you either fix it or you walk away. But some of us," his eyes swept the space, "we build again, from scratch, from ruin, quietly, until one day, the one who left realizes the locks have changed. Applause followed, a ripple across the guests. Still, Jason remained still. He turned to Abigail. "To the woman who never asked me to change," he said softly, "only to heal. Thank you. You made me see I wasn't broken, just unfinished." Tears filled Abigail's eyes. She reached for his hand. Jason raised his glass once more. "To peace, and to those who make room for it." Beyond the hedgerow, Evelyn stood motionless. Dean stood beside her, hands shoved into his jacket, eyes fixed on the glowing lights scattered across the vineyard like low-hanging stars. "Damn," he muttered. "That was cold, but classy." Evelyn said nothing. She still held the wedding invitation she had once dismissed as spiteful. But it hadn't been that. It had been a message, a resolution, delivered without malice. She looked down at the folder in her arms, Jason's quiet legal goodbye. The accounts she once assumed were shared, now divided. The home, reassigned. The car, gone. The Asheville timeshare she loved to mention, sold. He hadn't shouted, hadn't warned her. He'd just rewritten the ending without her. Inside, laughter bubbled beneath the twinkle of string lights. Abigail laughed as Leah spun her near the wine table. Jason watched them, not like someone who had moved on, but like someone who had arrived. A server approached with a cake knife. Jason accepted it and turned to Abigail. "Ready?" "For the rest of it," she said. He smiled, and together they cut into the beginning of their new chapter. Evelyn turned back, her heels crunching softly on gravel. She didn't cry, didn't speak, didn't turn around. But as she passed the gates, she reached into her bag and pulled out her phone. The screen still showed the date, November 4th. She typed a note to herself with trembling fingers. "Never underestimate the silence. It might be someone making space for your replacement." There would be no comeback this time, no second chance, no door left unlatched, only the echo of a man she thought would always be waiting, who chose instead to rebuild a life without her in it.